Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to go ahead and answer the questions that I went ahead and posed in my Ask Dracdoc series. For those of you to know, this is a series where I simply answer questions that you may have had about me. It's a little chance for you to get to know me a little bit better, just so, I'm not necessarily so out there. It's a little bit more personal, get to know each other a little bit more, or more you getting to know me a little bit more, so you can ask whatever questions you want. Now, warning. This video is going to be extremely long. I looked at all the questions and I want to answer them all. I'm going to try and keep my answers short so it doesn't go too long, but yeah, I have well over 50 questions, so it's going to be a long video. It may even stretch over an hour. That said, for each question, I'm actually going to have in the description a listing of the question and a timestamp right next to it. So in case you are not interested in hearing all of the answers to all of the questions, you don't have to. You can go ahead and click on the little button next to, or the little timestamp next to the question that you want, and you'll be teleported magically through YouTube to the question that you're interested in hearing. Okay? So keep that in mind. With that, one more thing, and that's there are almost all the questions that I got answered here. Some of them I smashed together because they were ultimately the same question. So so if you don't hear your specific question answered, you'll probably hear a similar question or see a similar question that answers the question that you were asking. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started with this. Let's start off with, and I had to group these up, let's start off with fragrance-related questions. Question number 1. When did you look at your colognes and say, I'm a collector, and what did you own then? This was actually very early on my cologne collecting career. I used to like to kind of compare colognes with my best friend, basically see what we had. It was very small. We had like 3-4 fragrances at the time, but we, as we went out to shop for clothes, the whole new thing was to get new colognes to see, who smelled the best, who went through. So I considered myself a cologne collector even back then, even when I owned like 5 fragrances. At the time, I owned like Michael Jordan's fragrance. I owned Polo Blue. I owned Carolina Herrera 212. I owned, I think one of the, it wasn't Polo Red. It was Polo Red. Not Polo Red, but Perry Ellis Red. Perry Ellis Red and something else. I completely forgot. It might have been Curve or something like that. But those were the fragrances that I owned at that time, very early in the career. 2, what's your favorite single fragrance note? I don't have one. I've got a couple of fragrance notes that I like, but I don't really have a single favorite fragrance note. I've really begun to know and ultimately decided on myself that a particular fragrance note isn't really, in one fragrance cologne, a note like vanilla can be absolutely sublime. In another one, it may be sickeningly cloying. So it really depends how the parfumer uses it. Bottom line, I don't have a favorite fragrance note. I have a couple of favorite fragrance notes in general, not just one, and that is I like cedar, I like vanilla, I like mint at times. When it's used, cedar, vanilla, and bergamot basically though are my 3 that I generally look for. Number 3, who are your top 3 favorite fragrance reviewers and why? Okay, this one's pretty easy for me. My first favorite fragrance reviewer is easily Robes 08. I really love the information that he puts across in it. I don't agree with it. A lot of times, like 75% of the time, I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying, especially on fragrances that I've smelled. That said, I always love to hear his opinion on what a fragrance is because I know that he spent a ton of time with it. He gives me pretty much any question. He answers pretty much any question that I have about a fragrance, and that's why I love his reviews, basically. They're very in-depth, very thorough, and I highly recommend it, to pretty much anyone who's looking at fragrances. Okay? 2, Redolescence. He's a relatively new reviewer. I like his reviews because they're very much in the same style. When I think about Robes 08 and Redolescence, I know that if I have a question about a fragrance, I can go to their review and get, a concise answer to that question. I am very particular. They really don't repeat themselves when going through. That's just a little personal pet peeve of mine. I hate it when people are constantly repeating the same thing over and over and over again. That's something that I used to do in my personal life, and I had to switch and do that out of. So I'm very cognizant of when I see it happening over and over. So that's that. And the third reviewer is a little bit different than both of them. He doesn't review anymore. It was Hero. and Heroes helped me, and that's because I'd say his taste is the closest out of all reviewers that I've seen to mine. He's picked out two of my favorite fragrances, Musc Ravageur and Spiratu du Veni. Those two fragrances I love, and it's because of Hero. I used to love the way that he hyped fragrances. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fun. There were some fragrances that he hyped that I thought sucked. But, again, we all don't have the same taste. And just because you don't have the same taste as someone, take me, like I just said with Rogues 08, doesn't necessarily mean that I don't like his reviews or anything like that. Love his reviews. They're my favorite to watch. And, yeah, so keep it like that. Those are my 3 favorite reviewers. Number 4. Cody, as a fragrance reviewer and implicitly collector, what's your take and maybe your advice for the guys who take this hobby seriously and invest serious cash into an extensive collection of bottles, which would literally take years to finish, provided that generally fragrance's shelf life expectancy is about 3 years? Do you see this as a risk of any sorts for a collector? I know you're very careful when it comes to spending your hard-earned cash, and that's why I thought of asking this. I loved this question. This was an excellent question, and it's something that I personally struggled with. Basically, the question in a nutshell is how you reconcile, collecting fragrances that are only supposed to last 3 years and dumping a bunch of cash. What do you do, basically? Well, I basically was in that same boat. I was horrified when I learned that fragrances only, quote-unquote, last 3 years. Took a little bit more investigation into it and found that's actually not the case. The case is a fragrance will last as long as you need it to last, depending on how you take care of it, basically. So the main thing, the best conditions are cool conditions, cool and dark, basically, with no leakage, basically, with the actual fragrances. So keeping that in mind, my most precious fragrances, and I suggest this for anyone, basically, is to buy a wine cooler and modify the wine cooler, basically. Keep it, I would say keep it like you would keep wine, basically. That's the easiest way that I tell people. It doesn't have to be chilled, it doesn't have to be cold, basically, but, keep it cool. Keep it cool and keep it dark. And so I keep my most precious fragrances in a modified wine cooler, and I have a video of that, so you can go ahead and search for that. But it's in that video, it's in that setup. My most precious fragrances are there. My other fragrances are on a shelf that is kept in a dark room, or basically in a room that's darkened. If you can see, I've got light blocking curtains, basically, and I keep it that way during the day for the very most part. But that's basically how I treat it. I keep them in good shape. Should never ever store them in other places, and I have a separate video discussing how you should specifically store your fragrances. So check out that video for a more in-depth answer. Okay. Number 5. You are being sent to an IT job on Mars for the rest of your natural life. What 2 fragrances will you take with you, and what 2 other personal items will you take beyond the regular things one would pack? Okay. For the 2 fragrances that I would take with me, it would have to be one light and one dark. Probably go for the light fragrance Bergamot 22. I would definitely stick with that. But the question isn't necessarily, what are your favorite fragrances? Or for me, it's not, I'm going to take my favorite fragrances there. I'm going to take Bergamot 22 because I know that it's not going to make me sick if I wear it a ton. Musc Ravageur is my ultimate all-time favorite fragrance. That said, I know it will make me sick if I wear it too much. So I cannot take that fragrance on a mission to Mars for my rest of my natural life. It would have to be something that is dark, but at the same time, that's something that's not going to make me sick, if you will. So if I was to go along with something like that for my dark fragrance, it would probably have to go with something like Oud Wood from Tom Ford. So the 2 fragrances would be Bergamot 22 and Oud Wood. What other 2 personal items would I take? Well, I would take one. If I had a way to charge, which I'm sure I would, basically, I would take something like an iPhone, basically, where I could jam-pack, most importantly, in like a Kindle app, a ton of books. I love reading, I love to read, and books are something that I would take with me. As for the second item, I can't really think of anything else. If I had books, on an iPhone with, music and stuff like that on that iPhone, I'm perfectly fine. All right. Next question. Besides fragrance, do you collect anything else? No, I don't collect anything else. The only thing close that I collect would probably be liquor, and I'm just getting into that a little bit more. So whether it be rum, whether it be whiskey, you name it, I'm starting to get into collecting that a little bit more. But that takes up a lot of space, and space is at a premium in New York. So, yeah, I can't really, not necessarily afford, but afford space-wise to collect anything. So, no, I don't really collect anything else. 7. If you only had one cologne to pick for the rest of your life, what would you choose? Also, a gun is put to your head, so you're forced to answer. Easy one, Bergamot 22. If I just had one, Bergamot 22. 8. What happens if you apply a fragrance too close? Does it last longer or not? Does it affect the development of the scent? I usually spray from a distance 15 centimeters, and some fragrances drip onto the skin after applying. Does that mean I spray too close? Well, the only thing that distance has to do with it is how much area it's applying over your skin. Generally, you want to get it. Think of fragrance spraying like a cone, so it comes out and it's like a cone. You want to get it so that the end cone kind of goes out to its maximum range and hits everything that you need it to hit. Spraying at a distance does not affect how long it lasts on your skin, outside of the fact that it's got to cover more area. That's it. Okay? Let's see. Number 9. What are some of your favorite places to test fragrances at? I would probably say it's really one place, and that's Mid New York. I absolutely love testing at Mid New York. For those of you who know, Mid New York is a niche perfumery place that is just below of Houston Street in Manhattan. A little bit on the lower side of Manhattan. It's absolutely fantastic. They make you feel at home. They let you test out what you need to test without applying any pressure, basically, to buy the fragrance. So they kind of let you do your thing with it. They let you take samples home, kind of try on the fragrance, and you come back and buy it if you want it. If it doesn't suit your needs, no skin off then. And that's one reason I absolutely love Mid New York. Can't say enough about them. Okay. Number 10. Hey, Cody Doc, are you selling or cutting down on your collection at all? I remember a video, I think back in April, you mentioned that you were thinking about it. Also, out of the new 2013 new releases, what is the best out there in your opinion? Okay, for the latter question of the new 2013 releases, I don't have a favorite. I'm not really one to compare fragrances by the year that they were released. It's just not an important stat to me. So it's not something that I think about. I don't have one. As for the first part of the question, selling my fragrances, it's still up in the air for me. I've thought about switching to a model where I basically just go out and buy all the fragrances and immediately sell them after. But for that, you've got to have a little bit more time in terms of, having the time to sell it to someone and then going through. So that's a possibility. May actually do something like that. But at this point, I'm not selling any of my fragrances. When I do, I'll let people know. That's it. 11. What are some of the worst comments you've received while wearing any fragrance? I don't really receive negative comments at all. I more take it, the worst thing that happened to me when wearing a fragrance, and that I know was fragrance related, was when I was wearing Encre Noir, basically, by Lalique. It's a very heavy vetiver-based fragrance. I was in the subway, suit and tie, sat down next to a woman, kind of felt like she smelled me, sniffed the air, and then she got up, moved to the other side of the train, and I take that to be the worst comment that I've actually gotten while wearing it. Okay? Yeah, I would give that one. Number 12. Does Bergamot 22 remind you of your ex in a good or bad way? Bergamot 22 doesn't remind me of my ex at all. For those of you who don't know, Bergamot 22 was the fragrance that my ex-girlfriend helped me pick out. But the thing is, that fragrance, no, it doesn't remind me of my ex-girlfriend at all. There is another fragrance that does remind me of an ex-girlfriend. And, okay, so here's funny story time. Fragrances, for me, they create associations kind of just like that. And another fragrance that I was wearing in particular at the time, let's just say, with this particular ex, on this particular occasion, not naming any names, I was not able to rise to the occasion at the time. So, pretty much, it was extremely embarrassing. Did not like the situation at all. The fragrance that I happened to be wearing at that time, Amber Nuit by Dior. It's a shame. I love that fragrance, but now I cannot wear it because it reminds me of failure, basically. It is a scent, and every time I catch whiffs of it, I cannot be out with a woman and at the same time have that fragrance on, because it's just not going to happen basically with that fragrance. It's now that fragrance is tainted. It has no, it's cursed basically to me. So the only time I wear that fragrance now is when I know that I'm not going to be doing anything with a woman basically. So because of that, yes. So that fragrance is more a fragrance that reminds me of an ex rather than the other one. So take with it what you will. Let's see. Next question. What fragrance do you think Walter White would wear, and what fragrances do you think Heisenberg would wear? I like that question, just because I think the fragrances that Heisenberg and Walter White would wear would be different. And Walter White, I think, would wear something like Acqua di Gio, something safe, something, down to ordinary, but you see through the show he kind of changes, and I think towards the end, Heisenberg would be wearing something, more in your face, something more daring, something more ballsy. I would go with something like, I would go with something like Black Afghano that he would wear. It would be something completely different and out of characteristic than Walter White would wear. Black Afghano versus Acqua di Gio. Yeah, that's what I think. 14. Is Musc Ravageur still your holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever smelled fragrance? Are there any other contenders that come close to it? Yes, it is still my favorite fragrance. It is still my crowning fragrance. There have always been fragrances that come close to it. Guerlain Spiritueux de Bluvini. There's been Aqua, not di Gio. It's, where is it? Mason, Aqua Universalis. There we go. Aqua Universalis was one. Bergamot 22 was another. There's a couple that come close to it. Humaniste by Frappan. There's been a couple that come close to it, but yeah, that's on that. Let's see. 15. Do you remember your first fragrance you spent $100 on or more, and do you still think it was worth it? Bonus question. I remember you mentioning rooting for the Raiders. Raiders once? Are you a fan? If so, are you depressed as I am so far this season? All right. So first question, easy. The first fragrance I spent $100 plus on was Musc Ravageur. Was off of a hero review. Still worth it. Loved it. Still have it. Got it. The second question. Yes, I am a Raiders fan. I am always depressed. It's one thing to know. I mean, until our team gets much better, we pretty much going into the season you're not going anywhere basically, and to me that's one of the worst feelings as a sport fan. So yeah. Next one. Let's see. Let's go ahead and move this one up. Do you wear an unscented deodorant? If not, which one? Yes, I do wear an unscented deodorant. I wear Mitchum unscented, basically. It's excellent, leaves no scent, doesn't get in the way of my fragrance. Fantastic. Where do you spray your frag when you're suited up? Where do you spray your frag when you are suited, tied up, at work or wherever else? I never spray on my suit, number one. Never, ever on any of my suits. I may spray on a dress shirt, but in general, what I usually do is, whenever I have a suit on, I always have an undershirt. If you don't have an undershirt while wearing a suit, I don't know what you're doing. But either way, you wear on the undershirt, before I even put that on, I'll spray on my skin, basically. And then I may spray a dash or two on the undershirt itself. Put on the fragrance, and then I'll usually get the open pulse points as well. So I'll spray underneath, like, here, maybe to the chest. Put on the shirt, spray, put one or two sprays on the actual shirt itself. Put on the dress shirt, tie up everything, and then I'll go really high, like maybe up here, and then I'll hit both wrists basically, and that's usually how I spray when I'm wearing a suit. It's usually a little bit heavy, but generally, since I've usually got my suit on, it kind of keeps everything a little bit bottled in and never comes off as too much. Depending on the actual fragrance, if it's something a little bit heavier, then I'll go a lot lighter on the scent and not put anything under and just go with the open pulse points. That's how I wear it when I wear a suit. Let's see. Do you ever wear oils? Actually, some of them are quite good. Not really. The only oil I wear is a personal fragrance that I actually created on my own. It's my own little personal concoction. 19. What 3 fragrances would you mix up to a single one, and what special occasion would you wear it to? I wouldn't mix up any. I don't really like mixing fragrances. The only fragrances that I mix are the Tom Ford Special or Private Blend fragrances. And I don't really do that often, but I do it. A mixture that I like is usually Tuscan Leather with like Tobacco Vanille is one. Tobacco Vanille with something like Oud Wood with Amber Absolute. There's a lot of combinations with it that you can wear, and a lot of them smell great. Let's see. What is your favorite designer cologne of all time? Man, that's a tough one. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, it's not so tough. My favorite designer fragrance is probably Chanel L'Our Homme Edition Blanche. It's probably my favorite one of all time. Let's see. 19. If you've... I've already asked you previously about your thoughts on the Sens line of Amaraldo Zegna fragrances. I was going to ask that again for another month just to give you sufficient time to absorb the details, reviews, and information of the 5 fragrances in that collection. But since you're inviting me to ask a question, is there any conceivable way to get a hold of samples from that collection? Really appreciate your response to my last question. You rock. Okay. No, I don't know yet because I still haven't really looked into it. I've got a lot of fragrances to get to, so I apologize for that, but coming down the line, I will get a chance to go to it. Let's see. Have you ever accidentally broken a bottle? Which was it, and how did you break it? Easy question. Never broken a bottle. I've come close, but I've never broken a bottle because I don't really drop bottles. I'm really careful with my fragrances. Next question. Hello, what do you think about perfume oils versus cologne we usually wear? Also, do you have Instagram or other social sites we can follow? Oh, okay, that's why I kept this question. So for the oil, I kind of already answered the oils, but I don't really wear oils. I think they're another way to wear fragrances, and I think they're perfectly fine. I think wearing fragrances themselves, though, or cologne, EDP, rather than the oils, is a little bit. You can really control the. I would say I like the performance a lot better than oils. And oils, they kind of feel kind of weird on your skin, and they tend to stain a bit more your clothes, and so that's kind of why I shy away from oils. But as to the second part of the question, do I have any Instagram or other social sites we can follow? As of right now, no, not really. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, I have Facebook, and a lot of people have found me through them, but I don't really use those medias to advance fragrance or cologne. I just keep it with my YouTube channel. I've been asked many times to create a fragrance group. I don't think me creating a group will really add to anything that's already there. I mean, I can name off like 5 reviewers who have their own, fragrance groups. And if I was to get into something like that, I would have to actively be involved in it, and I know it would take a lot of time. I don't really want to get into that, basically. So, not really. Those are more the other avenues are my personal avenues. It's not out of the question that I may introduce something in the future, but as of right now, no. Okay. What is your favorite scent on a woman, meaning the fragrance itself or the types of notes? I like on women generally, you know what? This is going to sound really, really weird, but I actually prefer no fragrance on women. I actually prefer the slight tinge, not BO, or not, like the bad BO, like you haven't showered in days, but the natural scent of a woman, basically. And so, while I prefer it, there are some scents that I think go well with women. Vanilla is usually one that I like, but I actually, again, prefer no fragrance or no scent on a woman. And let's leave it at that. I like that scent on most women, basically. It gives it a little bit more of a primal urge. I love it. Just love it. But yeah, that's a question for another day. All right. So next one. What do you feel is the most overrated, hyped fragrance of all time? I don't have one because I don't believe fragrances are overrated or overhyped. I believe if a fragrance is talked about a lot, it means a lot of people like it. If fragrance isn't, maybe people haven't been exposed to it, or maybe not. But I don't really buy into the overhyped, fragrance. If a bunch of people like it and they're talking about a fragrance, sure, go ahead. It's not really gonna steer me towards it. I may try it out of curiosity, but I'm not gonna, call it overhyped and necessarily label people who like it, like they're crazy or whatnot. Whatever. It's if fragrance is overhyped. Again, it's for a reason. You can choose whether to buy into it or not, and I'm just one who's not swayed by it. Okay. Next, let's see. Can't help it. Have to finally ask in your intro. Who are those two women on the top right corner? Okay, those two women on the top right corner. I've done some reviews with them in it, and gotten their question. I think you're probably referring to one. Might be Crystal and actually, yeah. Actually, here's a. We'll do this for it because I actually. Oh, Rachel and damn, I can't. It's the problem is I can't remember the second person's name off the bat. They were coworkers with me at the AP, so you'll have to find their video where they're actually giving their opinion on a fragrance and see their name. One of them's definitely Miss Rachel. I'm not sure who's the other one, but yeah. Okay, go through that. Let's see. Choose the best 2 or 3 from one Parfum de Marly, Parfum de Empire, and Andy Tower. Well, I can't do the first 2 because I don't really have one from those 2. And from Andy Tower, I personally think L'air Desert Marocain and Incense, was it Incense Rose? Yeah, Incense something by Andy Tower. But I believe those 2 are the best. Actually, I like Orange Star a little bit too, but those 2 were definitely the 2. Okay, so with that, next set of questions, miscellaneous questions. Question number 1. Who's your favorite NBA player right now? I don't really have one right now. I know I've been giving that answer a lot, but I don't really have a favorite player right now. I like LeBron James. He's not my favorite player. I like him because I really think that he's underrated in terms of what he actually does. He does the dirty work. He plays, he can pretty much guard every single position. Can pretty much shut down almost every single position. Offensively, he's pretty much a whiz at what he does. He's absolutely fantastic. Basically, I'm in awe. I think of a lot of NBA players. If I was physically up to the task, how would I guard them? And I think out of all the players, I have the most trouble thinking how I would guard LeBron, basically, because he's that difficult. But in terms, my favorite players were, Tim Hardaway was my favorite player, one of my favorite players. Rip Hamilton was one of my favorite players. Actually, now it would probably have to rest on Ray Allen, who's probably still active. I'm a heavy jump shooter, and he is pretty much the epitome of jump shooting. I absolutely love it. Ray Allen. Okay, what is your favorite fragrance when playing sports? It would probably have to be New Harlem. At this point, it's probably New Harlem or Michael Jordan Legend. Both of them are very similar. I'll usually go something really, really sweet. Yeah. 3. What is your favorite sport and what sports teams do you follow? My favorite sport is basketball. The sports teams that I follow are the Raiders, the Knicks, which coincidentally are my favorite teams. Raiders, the Knicks. I don't really follow hockey, so I don't really have a favorite hockey team. Soccer on the international level, I have to support U.S., but I'm always looking, to Jamaica to see how that they actually do. In terms of, I'm not really into club soccer yet, so I can't really tell you, Man U, Chelsea, or any other team that I like because I don't really watch them that often. So none of that. Baseball team. I don't really like to follow baseball. I like the sport. I love going to baseball games and just sitting because it's a very chill, relaxed atmosphere. In fact, I think the experience for going to a particular game or a sporting event, I think I like baseball the most out of all of them because it's the most relaxing, most chill. You can grab a beer, grab some food, just sit back, talk, taking the game as you go through, and it's absolutely fantastic. So. Yeah. So those are kind of my favorite things. Oh, MMA. How could I forget that? And mixed martial arts. I absolutely love the sport. Hate boxing, though. Corrupt crap. All right. Let's see. How do you feel about the finale of Breaking Bad? It surprised me. I liked the finale, but I was expecting to be disappointed in something that they did. I didn't expect it to be wrapped up so neatly and so tight. But overall, I was pleased with it. Jordan or Kobe one-on-one? Jordan. Come on. It's not even a question. Yeah. I think... But though, you know what? I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout or anything. They're both two very, very, very similar players. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kobe could beat Jordan one-on-one when they were both at their prime. They're both very, very similar. Tupac or Biggie? Actually, even though I'm from the New York area, it's probably Tupac. I like more of his songs more than I did Biggie's. I never, actually, to be perfectly honest, I never really liked Biggie's songs, but that was just me. 7. What would you rather? Would you rather be the best player on a weak team or the weak player on a good team that just sat the bench on a pro ball team? That's actually a really good question. I'm really big on team harmony and seeing what your team can do. But at the same time, everyone wants to contribute, I think. And I would love to contribute. I wouldn't want to be the best. I can tell you that I wouldn't want to be the best player on a bad team. I don't like it just because it's more frustrating to me. I'd rather be a piecemeal player on a good team, basically. I think some of the most enjoyable experiences I've had where I was literally the 5th best guy on our team, but it allowed me to do stuff that I love. Like I view basketball like a high-paced chess game, and if you're doing it correctly, especially playing, my nickname's been Klepto for the longest time. That's because I can come up with steals, blocks at basically an alarming rate by simply predicting where people are going to be, driving them to where I want them to be, and setting them up, basically. So I'm perfectly happy, doing stuff like that and not even scoring. So almost like a Shane Battier type of view for it. So yeah, no problem with that. Have you ever tried to emulate when playing basketball? What position do you play on your softball team? Or who have you tried to emulate when playing basketball, and what position do you play on your softball team? I try and emulate Rip Hamilton. He's actually... that's who... Rip Hamilton in his prime. Basically, I'd say like Rip or Ray Allen. Those two. Basically, I come off a lot of screens. I'm constantly darting around on the court on the offensive end, and I have a really good mid-range shot. So it fit naturally. That's what I do. As far as what position do I play on your softball team, I oscillate between the two. I'm either outfield. I cover a lot of ground, and a lot of times when we're short, I usually have to do something nuts, like play both right field and center field at the same time. So depends. Or either that, or I play shortstop. One of the two. So yeah, I'm used to high pay. Used to balls coming at me extremely fast. Whatever. Let's see. Do you think Doc Rivers is a traitor, or did the Celtics bring this on themselves? No. I don't think he's a traitor. I don't think anyone's really a traitor in sports. I think this whole team loyalty thing is the most single asinine piece of crap that I still can't get over in sports. I mean, I think it's one of the most ridiculous things that's pushed. It's a business, basically. It's, there is no loyalty in business. As much as people like to say, oh, you're loyal to a certain team. No. It's a business, basically. Let's not get it confused with anyone being loyal or not. It's a business. Leave it at that. What are your top 5 or 10 video games of all time? Well, pretty much all of the Final Fantasy series. I like some of the Elder Scrolls series on top of it. The NBA 2K series I liked. I like some of the baseball simulations as well as Madden series, but in general I go for either sports games or role-playing games or strategy games. One of the three, yeah. Actually, no, video games. My favorite would probably be Ultima Online when it first came out, which was a long time ago. I played WoW for a while now, or World of Warcraft, and I also play. I play Final Fantasy: Realm Reborn now, as well as Smite. So I play those two games. Okay, personal questions. Number 1, you say the doc is in. Are you really a doctor? No, I am not a doctor. I am no way, shape, or form affiliated with any medical advice. Dracdoc does not stand for Drac Doctor. It stands for Drac DOC. DOC was Dominion of Chaos. That was the guild that I was in. I was known as Drac in that guild, so it was Drac DOC, Dracdoc. It just happens to be the doc, basically, just because it fits. So it's a moniker that I kind of went with, and now it is a little more the fragrance doctor, if you will. So I'm going to give you the clinical interpretations of the fragrance, whatever. All right. What do you do for a living? I am a product manager for an IT, pretty well-known IT, WebMD. What the hell am I trying to hide it for? I'm a product manager for WebMD. That's what I do for a living. In general, though, I'm a product manager, and I absolutely love it. Let's see. Where does your name Dracdoc come from? Like I said, Dracdoc actually stands for Drac DOC. DOC stands for Dominion of Chaos. Dominion of Chaos was the guild that I was in when I was younger, and it always stuck. So, yeah. Let's see. 4, what type of music am I into? I am into all sorts of music. Nobody really believes me when I say this. When I say all sorts of music. When most people say that, they really come down to a couple genres. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I am going to read off a couple of songs from my playlist, just so you can kind of get or not my playlist, but from my iPhone, just so you can get a feel of what I listen to. Let's see. Artists. Songs, here we go. About Her from the Kill Bill soundtrack. Addicted to Me by Anjuli. Addiction by Ryan Leslie. Let's go down a little bit more. Bright Lights, Bigger City by CeeLo. Candy, Nat King Cole. Cruel Summer, Ace of Base. Daydreaming, Lupe Fiasco. DLZ, TV on the Radio. Don't Play No Games, Beastie Boys. Man. Let's keep going down. Hazu by Il Bostino. It's this Japanese rapper. Heart of the City by Jay-Z. Man. La Di Da by Asher Roth. Man, there's just a ton here. Love is Blindness by Jack White. U2 cover. Love Stone, Timberlake, Madonna, Revolver, Maroon 5, One More Night. There's just, yeah. There's a ton of stuff. Some French groups in there. There's a ton of stuff. Really wide selection. But some concert, symphony. I listen to a lot of stuff. Next question. Are you a reader? What type of books do you like to read? Can you recommend any books, magazines, good study references on fragrances? I actually don't read much on fragrances. I read a lot. I love the Sherlock Holmes series. I like mysteries, and I like suspenses, suspense books. I actually like a lot of nonfiction books as well too. So stuff like Freakonomics. I read a lot of Malcolm Gladwell books. Stuff like What the Dog Saw. I'm currently reading his new book, David and Goliath. Love stuff like that. Let's see. Next one. Oh, so for those of you who don't know, David and Goliath, like for an example of what they talk about, is a lot. They put like an economic spin on stuff, or they put a spin of, I would say, looking at things and seeing things that aren't necessarily, that most people may not see. So for example, David and Goliath, he goes in depth about the David and Goliath story as one part of the book. And he covers, things that people consider or disadvantages that may not necessarily be so far-fetched. And he gives basically a real-life explanation for the David and Goliath story. Awesome. I highly suggest people check it out. Okay, next. Do you cook? I know you're somewhat of a foodie. Sorry. Do you cook? What is your specialty? How does your love of food relate to your love of fragrances? I do cook a lot. I love to cook. I think it's an experiment. I'm not very good at it right now, but we'll see as time goes on. I can maybe get a little bit better. As far as it being with my love of fragrances, I don't really equate the two. strangely enough, I don't really go around smelling the food that I cook. As strange as that sounds, I really don't. But yeah, okay. Let's see. You traveled quite a bit as a child. Do you still travel? Do you visit the places your parents are from? And what is your next planned trip, and where else would you like to go? I did travel a lot as a child, and I still love to travel. I actually, a bit draconian, I think that everyone should travel at least once a year and get out of the country and go to somewhere that they're not used to. I think more exposure to different cultures and different attitudes really would go a long way in addressing a lot of the issues that we have in the United States. So I'm a big travel guy, love to travel, and I try and take at least 2 trips a year. Let's see, as far as do I visit the places my parents are from? Not my father. I've never visited Malawi or returned to Malawi, and for some reason I don't really want to go. I can't really explain it, but I don't. So there's that. But Jamaica I visit all the time. In Jamaica I go all the time. My next planned trip for a family reunion that we're having at an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica, probably it's actually going to be in the summer of this coming year. So yeah. And where is my next planned trip, and where else would I like to go? My next planned trip is going to be to Amsterdam. I still have not been to Amsterdam. Really excited to go. And it's most likely going to be in late November or mid-December that I go. So that's definitely coming up. And where else would I like to go? I would love to go to Egypt. The problem is Egypt is very unstable at this point right now, and until it stabilizes, I really don't want to go. So, yeah, because if I ever get captured, or not even necessarily captured or caught up in something there, no one's coming to save me. So, I'll go to Egypt when it's a little bit more stable. Let's see. Next. Do you like to shop for things other than fragrances? What do you most enjoy shopping for? I like shopping for clothes, to be perfectly honest. I like coming up with new clothing schemes and new things to wear. I like going through and doing my own style for it. So, yeah, clothes and shoes. I like shopping for shoes. Go figure. Yeah. Are you good at relaxing? What do you do in your downtime? I am very good at relaxing. In my downtime, I like to pretty much either read, or set up, cook some stuff, or just sit and relax and watch some Law and Order or play some video games. I'm good at relaxing. I'm great at it. Let's see. Next. Name your pet peeves. Oh man. All right. Name my pet peeves. My pet peeve. Oh, here's a big one. I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I hate it that it seems like a lot of people, especially the younger generation, don't know how to interact with others. So what do I mean by that? More specifically, say for example, you call somebody on the phone. Phone etiquette is that you state who you are and what you're asking for. And so it's, hello, yes, I am blah 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 calling for blah blah blah, or hey, what's up, blah blah, whatever, something like that. I hate it when somebody calls me, and they go, who is this? I that peeves me off to no end. It's, yeah, you don't call me and ask me who is this, basically. So that's not happening. State who you are, blah blah blah. Hate it. Okay. But yeah, overall with that overall theme, there are a couple people who message me, and overall, 99% of the people who message me I have no problems with. There's 1% who will do something like really strange, like, oh, I'll give you a real life example. We'll do something really strange, like ask me. We'll say something like, they'll IM me and they'll say something like Fragrantica. And my response is question mark. They go, Fragrantica. I go, what about it? They go, you know of the site. I go, yes, I know of the site. but what is your point? What are you asking me for? And he goes, no need to get all in a tiff. I'm asking you if you know what Fragrantica is. I go, okay, that's fine. That's not what your question is. Your comment to me was Fragrantica, as if I'm supposed to know what the hell you're asking. But that unnerves me to no end. And surprisingly, there's been a couple people who approach me like that. I can't stand it. At this point now, somebody asks me like that, I just ignore it, basically, until they state more of what they're coming to me for. Pet peeve. I've got other pet peeves, but I can't really think of any right now, because in general, even if something annoys me, I just kind of brush it off. Okay? Let's see. Have you started working on your doctorate? Yes, I have. I'm working on my doctorate very slow. I am not in official school, so I have not enrolled to, I guess you could say, officially start, but I have been working on my doctorate alone. Yeah. Let's see. Please tell me about your debate activities. Are you on a team? I am actually going to join the New York debate team, but I am not on a team right now. I've actually still been looking into it, but I love debates. I love debates. So a lot of times with debates, I'll meet with a couple people, either that I know or some friends of the friends that I know, and debate them on subjects. For example, I have a lot of political debates. I'm the type of person who does not get upset over certain things, even if it's something that's dear and close to me. A debate is a debate. If you're getting upset, I've almost taken the stance that you've pretty much lost the debate, basically, because at that point you're not seeing logic or reason. You're arguing through emotion, basically, and that's never really a good thing. So, let's see. Do you have a blog, Facebook page, Twitter account, Pinterest board? Is there anywhere else we can follow you? As of right now, no. Kind of answered this one a little bit up, but no. As of right now, no. If you could live anywhere, where would you go? If I could live anywhere, at this point, I don't know. I'm still taking a stab at it. There's a lot of good places, a lot of really cool places in the world that you can live, that I've been to that are just fantastic. I don't know. Let's see. If you could have any one thing, any item, something you can pay for right now, what would it be? Nothing. I don't really have anything that I can't afford, basically. It's there's a certain point, basically, for people when you reach, at least for me, where the amount of money that I had went from everything that I need that can support everything that I want into excess, and I've long past that scenario. I don't really want for a lot of things. If I want something, I go ahead and get it, but there really isn't much that I hunger or want for. I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't want a Ferrari. I don't want expensive jewelry. I don't want expensive cologne. I want that stuff, but even that I moderate. I don't go out and buy every single expensive fragrance I see, even ones that I like. I moderate that stuff. I love Poivre 23, but I'm still struggling with, do I want to pay $400 for it, or is that money better off suited for something else? So yeah, let's see. What if your future spouse can't stand fragrances and gets sick from fragrances? Well, the answer actually is pretty simple. I don't wear fragrances around. That's the only thing that I guess people should be worried about. If I wind up with a spouse that says that she doesn't like fragrances and doesn't want me to wear fragrances around her, I may keep a couple, but that's the only situation where I would say, okay, collection, bye-bye. Because at the end of the day, yeah, fragrances, this is my thing. I collect, I do all that sort of stuff, but personal relationships are more important, and especially when it comes to marriage and spouses, there's a lot of give and take, and fragrances aren't something that I would put my foot down and say, no, I'm going to make you sick and wear these fragrances, despite what you think. So that's not something. So fragrances are on the chopping block for it. Yeah. Let's see. What do you like most, boys or girls? I don't like boys and I don't like girls. I like women. I don't like men. If that's what what your question is. Yeah, actually, and I really want to emphasize, I like women. I don't like immature girls and immature women. I can't stand. At this point, I can never date anyone under 27 or 28. Basically, I just can't stand immature women. It's just not happening. I definitely prefer women, basically, who are more set and more mature, basically. Yeah. Let's see. Best place for steak you've ever been to in NYC? Probably have to say Peter Luger's. Yeah, I'm sticking with Peter Luger's. Yeah, Peter Luger's, medium rare porterhouse. All right, next. Let's see. Do you have a large portfolio? Okay, now this question, do you have a large portfolio, is followed by 3 wink smiley faces, basically. So I can only assume it's not talking about stocks, basically, and basically talking about my dick. I'm not going to tell you the size of my dick on YouTube. Sorry, not going to happen. But I do. Alright, let's see. What cuisines do you like, and what are your favorite fragrances favorite restaurants in New York? I love all sorts of cuisines. I don't really have one that I don't like, but gun to my head, nail it down, I'd probably go with Korean food as probably my favorite. And my favorite restaurant is probably, you can choose from a number of them that are all in Koreatown, and I absolutely love them. I especially love this pork dish called samgyeopsal. It's fantastic. Samgyeopsal or kalbi are my 2 favorite fragrances, or favorite dishes. They're meats. I also like naengmyeon a bit, which is basically a cold noodle with like vinegar sauce in it, and it's just like vermicelli noodles basically in it, but fantastic. Yes. Let's see. Is it true that you once shot a man in Reno and just to watch him die? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Next. Where did you go to college, and what do you enjoy did you enjoy your time at school? I went to college at the University of Illinois. I loved my time at U of I. It's basically out in the cornfields. It's about 2 hours south of Chicago. I loved it there. I would highly suggest, if you can do it, I would suggest people, when you go to college away from, family, friends, taking a brand new experience, basically. And it's more often than not, and college is really a lot more of what you make of it, rather than anything else. So yes, I loved the experience. Highly recommend it. What is your social security number and bank account number? Nice. I don't think so. All right. And final set of questions. Politics. All right. Hot button topic. Don't shoot the messenger. Whatever. Next, are you a liberal or what the hell? A liberal or Democrat? Oh, okay. No, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a registered independent. That said, independent really doesn't mean much. It means that you just don't choose, a Republican or Democrat at this point. I mean, there's a couple other parties, but there's no traction in them, and they seriously can't do anything right now. And especially the way campaign finance laws are, there really is no point to a third party at this stage and juncture. That said, I consider myself a social liberal and a conservative, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, basically. So there's a lot of things that I agree with from both parties. For example, socially wise, I believe, liberals on the right side of history on this one. Especially when it comes, I believe all people should be treated equal. I do not believe in affirmative action as it pertains to race. I believe in affirmative action as it pertains to socioeconomic status. So if I had my choice, I would do away with allowing somebody in because they're a certain race, and more allow someone in because they're socio and economic. I think that would solve most of the problems, and that's another thing that I actually love debating on. But stuff like that, I do believe that we are spending too much money as a whole. Here's the problem with I have with the conservative argument and with the liberal argument. the problem isn't that we're necessarily spending too much as a whole. We're spending the same percentage of GDP that we were back in the Reagan years, or back in the 80s when I was like 4. It's the same. We're actually spending a little bit less percentage-wise of GDP. That said, whenever people talk about cutting, which we do have to cut down on, the next question is, well, what do we cut? That's really the question. Well, what are we gonna cut? If it's because it goes, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and cut, let's say, Medicare. Nobody's gonna say Medicare or Social Security, even though that's what it's implying, because the minute anyone agrees to cut that, guarantee you their opponents, if you're a liberal and you agree to it, you're gonna have conservatives down your throat basically saying you cut Medicare. Same thing, opposite wise, if conservatives do it. And it's happened. I mean, if you look at the 2010 congressional elections, conservatives rode that wave into power, basically. I mean, Democrats controlled the House, and they pushed forward basically, hey, they're cutting your Medicare, they're cutting your Social Security, got into office, and basically said, hey, we've got to cut because... So it's a vicious cycle, basically, and it goes both ways. So it's not like I'm saying that this is just conservatives. This is both liberals and Democrats, and conservatives. Everyone does it. It's a reality that we face. Sorry, went off on a tangent here, and there's a ton to argue with politics. But again, yes, I am socially liberal, conservatively fiscal. Okay, so let's go. Next question. What are your thoughts on healthcare? My thoughts on healthcare are really pretty simple to a very, very complex problem. If anyone kind of subscribes and tells you that healthcare, for those of you who don't know, before I actually start on this one, my master's was in health information, was in health informatics, basically. And one of my final papers was dealing with this specific subject, and I had to get really in depth for it. Aced it, whatever. But what it made me realize was the question of healthcare is actually really, really complicated. If any politician or somebody tells you that it's as simple as, X, Y, Z, or as simple as X, they're lying to you, or they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Healthcare is very, very complicated. Now, before you answer that healthcare question, there's one question that everyone has to answer, and that's, do you consider healthcare a right or a privilege? If you consider it a right, then you most likely have a huge problem with healthcare as it is right now. If you consider it a privilege, you may not think that healthcare is bad right now. It may be perfectly fine. But once you answer that question is when, and I think once everyone in the United States comes to a consensus on that, we can truly move forward and begin to answer the question on healthcare. My position on healthcare, I personally believe that it is part of a right. Because your health is integral in what you do, then having access, put it this way, having no access to healthcare really frames everything else in your life, and it'll really determine that. And so, but I can also see why some people would consider it a privilege and not a right. So I believe that the healthcare system in the United States is borked. I don't believe it. It is borked. It's been something that we're trying to fix since the 80s. It's problem abound, but I personally am for... I'm probably going to get a lot of flack and hate for this, but I really do think that the government can do a lot better job than insurance companies. Insurance, I'm always sketchy and leery. Anytime that you put... An insurance company's goal is not to... insurance company's primary goal is not to get you better, basically. An insurance company's primary goal is to make money. They're not in it for your health. Your health is a secondary, reason. Your health being, tied to why you pay premiums, etc. But their goal is not to make you healthy. If it was, we would never hear any of these things of people getting dropped from their insurance company after a certain period of time, of people being denied coverage. That's not their concern, and it shouldn't be their concern, and they're not evil. That's what their function is. But that's why their function, in my opinion, doesn't mesh and meld with healthcare. basically, and why we get the results that we do now. So I believe that it's not a good idea to force people to pick up insurance. And so for that, when we're talking about Obamacare in particular, I'm not for that. That said, I do realize that Obamacare is trying to help patch up a system that is broken, basically. So I'm not for repealing it at all. If people have a better idea, and I think in this healthcare argument, people have really lost sight of that. I think Republicans would have done so much better of a job at repealing it if they had a credible answer to what we can do instead of it, and push that agenda forward. They would have done so much better on it, but they haven't. But that's been a separate reason, I think, because that's a long conversation. But those pretty much are my thoughts on healthcare. I really believe that everyone should have healthcare. I think that people should in general, take a little bit better care of themselves. But that's just me. That's my opinion. All right. So I'm going to cut it off right now at this point. I've been talking for a long time. Vocal cords are getting a little bit iffy, and I want to take a little bit of a break. So, so we're going to go ahead and end it at this. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave your comments down below. Send me a message, whatever you got to do. Thank you. Take care of yourselves, and have a great night.